and Polly here from Beat and Jeans. And today we are doing an interview with Emily. Emily is a carrier of the BRCA1 gene mutation, and we just want to learn a little bit more about that mutation and hear about how she mastectomy. So we want to hear about that. We haven't really talked to anyone solely about the mastectomy. And with Polly having hers done, Emily was like her big supporter through the whole thing. Hi, Emily.
Hi.
Hi. Welcome. Oh my gosh, I can't believe we're talking. Yes, Taylor was just saying about how you were a big support for me. And I don't even know if you're aware of how big of an impact you made on me. But
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. But I honestly probably wouldn't even have done a mastectomy had I not found you. So
I mean, I do know we were in communication during that time a little bit, and you were really hesitant to move forward with your mastectomy. I didn't find out though your pathology results until, I don't know, maybe a year or two later. How long has it been for you?
It's been actually 1 year.
1 year. Okay. Then maybe I just found out your pathology results somewhat recently, and I was blown away by that. So it's amazing.
Pretty freaky.
Yeah.
Thank goodness she did it. I know. And thank you. And as you're the reason why I'm so open with everything. I was like, if she can do it, I can do it. So, so it's so great to have you join us today. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Having me. Are you guys in Colorado? Is that right?
New Mexico, Albuquerque.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Where are you from?
Iowa. I'm originally from Iowa and moved around quite a bit and landed back here in Iowa. So
nice.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, thanks for joining us. So yeah, we've never talked to anybody with BRCA1 mutation. So we're really interested to hear a lot about it. So take us back. Why did you get tested for BRCA? Do you have a family history of breast cancer?
I do. Yeah. So my mom, aunt, and grandmother all passed away in their 30s and 40s of breast cancer. Oh. So obviously a very alarming family history of breast cancer. And because of that, then ultimately ended up testing. My brother had actually tested before I did. His primary care doctor had recognized our family history, and at the time, this was like 9 years ago, so it's quite a while ago. You know, I mean, genetics has come so far in that time span, but yeah, she really didn't know a ton about the BRCA1 mutation or just really genetic testing in general, but knew that the science existed. And so she had got my brother tested, which was all that was needed, really. So he tested positive for the BRCA1 mutation. And at that time I was pregnant with my son, who's now 8. So this was 9 years ago. I was obviously seeing my OBGYN a ton at that time and had brought it up to her. And this was when I was living in Chicago. So very large hospital in Chicago. I had asked her about it. She said, you know, there's not really anything that they do about it now, so they weren't going to test me. So kind of missed the boat on testing a couple times before actually being tested and having someone kind of listen to me and realize the need for it more so than anything.
Right. Wow. So you actually you asked to be tested and they said no.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I know.
Wow.
And so, ironically enough, I do this for a living now, and I'm able to, I feel very fortunate and able to, you know, help impact this with other patients and, you know, really get providers' attention and help them to understand, you know, to better recognize patients. And when they meet guidelines for testing, we're actually implementing a really cool technology, a program that we've created that helps different hospital systems and clinics to recognize and be able to identify patients. So it's really cool.
Wow. So
what
is it that you do exactly?
I work for a lab. I work for Ambry Genetics.
Oh, that's
Okay,
where we had ours tested.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are they still like mail-in things, or you guys actually work in hospitals now?
Both. So you can be tested. Well, they mail in. Are you saying that where we actually do the tests, like our lab?
Yeah, like, are you based in Iowa solely, or like, I mean, you just are like the lab that goes to the hospital? Like, how does that work? How do you work with the hospital?
Yeah, good. So we don't. I specifically only work in Iowa. However, our lab is based out of Orange County, California. That's where our massive super lab is. That's where all the specimens are sent, and then they do all the testing with the equipment and all the molecular biologists needed.
So what do you do then? You make sure somebody's fit to have the test done, or are you sending the? Tell us your position there.
Yeah, so I work with different providers, different genetic counselors, doctors, surgeons, everybody that would see patients who would find patients to qualify for testing. So ideally, we'd be reaching people at the healthy stage in life. So before they get to the oncology stage. And so that's where we're really working hard is in, family practice, OBGYN, where those healthy patients are. Also, gastroenterology is a big one. As you guys know, that's a big specialty. So, definitely reaching patients to see if they qualify for genetic testing.
Oh, how cool is
So
that?
interesting. And were you doing this before you found out you had the mutation?
No, I wasn't. No, mention. You talk about me sharing my story, and I was really hesitant to share my story because of where I was working, and it just the position that I was in. It just wasn't. Not that I was ever told that I couldn't share it or that I shouldn't share it. I just felt like it was maybe not the best thing for me to share publicly with my position and be so open and be so vulnerable with the whole process and the whole procedure. And ironically enough, I've built this career that is what I do every day is share my story. So it's cool. It's a really fun, really meaningful, full circle moment.
Right.
Wow.
It is a full circle.
Yeah.
So, okay, I want to go back to your brother. So he tested positive for BRCA. I don't know how that affects men. Can they get breast cancer too?
Yeah. So men can get breast cancer. So with BRCA1 and 2, I'm BRCA1, which I guess if you're going to have one or the other, the risks are better for men to have BRCA1 and women to have BRCA2. We're still at high risks for the same types of cancer, just varying degrees of risks. So as far as the male population and the BRCA mutation just in general, they are at an increased risk for, definitely breast cancer. Prostate cancer is a big one. Pancreatic cancer. So those are the three. Obviously, they don't have ovaries. They're not.
Right.
Wow. So does your brother have breast screenings and prostate exams? And how do you screen for the pancreatic?
Yeah, so he is, he'll be turning 40 actually this month. So the benefit of him knowing about his mutation, aside from then me finding out about mine, was that, he can screen for different things. He can do things more frequently and earlier than they would normally. So for example, his screening, he will do prostate screenings earlier. And I believe those start this year for him. He's been doing clinical breast exams in an office, doctor's office, but, and just kind of, taking note, making sure he's getting to, things like the dermatologist, that I don't think they're entirely sure about percentage of increased risk of melanoma, but I think they know that it's there. So, so just being regular about screenings and being proactive about everything.
Wow. So you found out you were positive, and what were your next steps after that diagnosis?
Yeah. Okay. So with my family history, it was more so relieving to me to find out about my diagnosis. I didn't know much about what the BRCA1 mutation was, but I knew that I was at higher risk for breast cancer. And given my family history, I feel like I already knew that. And so I was like, okay, this gives me some answers as to why the women in my family have all passed away at young ages, or at least been diagnosed at young ages, and didn't associate the high risk of ovarian cancer with it as well. So from there, I tested when I was 30. And at the time my son was 1. So finally, when I did get tested, a couple years from the time that I initially had tried to get tested, to then find a different OBGYN and tell her also, hey, my brother's positive for this mutation. I think I should maybe get tested. And again, I didn't know a ton about it at the time, other than the fact that I was at high risk and mastectomy was likely in my future. And that was fine for me. I didn't know the magnitude of the surgery, really. I didn't know what I was really signing up for, except for the fact that, like, okay, by the time you're 35, that's the guidelines for BRCA1. You should have this mastectomy at the age of 35. So kind of put into, I don't know, put everything like family planning wise, thinking about that. Unfortunately, my personal life and my medical timeline wasn't really lining up to match wanting to breastfeed all my children before all of my children. I have 1 currently. Yeah. But being able to breastfeed, it was important for me to breastfeed him. I wanted to breastfeed, additional children as well. So I wanted to for sure be with a mastectomy by the time I was 35, and then I was going to have my mastectomy. And until then, so immediately after I found out about my diagnosis, they put me into like a high risk screening category. Basically, they were just watching me very closely, and I started mammograms and breast MRIs right away. As far as the ovarian cancer risk that comes with it, so I'll say risk-wise for BRCA1, what we know is about up to 87% chance of breast cancer in your lifetime, and about a 40% chance of ovarian cancer. So definitely significant, definitely something to look into. And so I was just, breast cancer was how it presented in my family. That's what I was most concerned about. But knowing that, ovarian cancer is a very possible situation as well, which is a lot harder to detect for, and a lot harder to detect until it's in
later stages.
Right.
Like 3, 4, bad stages.
Right.
Whereas, with breast cancer, we have this technology to be able to do these imaging, to be able to tell, maybe a little bit earlier. But anyways, I was screening for 3 years, and everything was fine. It was just my normal. I was in and out for mammograms, MRIs, also doing the transvaginal ultrasounds to look at my ovaries and kind of keep a pulse on those. But even the ovarian cancer is just hard. We don't have good screening for it. Right. So
now with the BRCA1, in the breast, how does the cancer form? Does it form into a ball, or is it a web, sort of like ours? Is it a ductal or lobule? What kind of breast cancer are you guys prone to?
Oh, good question. I am not sure, other than the fact that I do know that triple negative breast cancer is more so linked to BRCA1. So that's the most aggressive form, harder to treat breast cancer.
Right.
I don't know how it forms, though. That's a good question.
So did they see anything on any of your MRIs or any of your mammograms?
They never saw anything. However, they did. I did get called back once. I needed to redo a mammogram, which that's one of those like your heart drops kind of feelings.
Right.
But yeah, it was fine. Everything was fine with it. However, they did talk about how my breast tissue is very dense,
Mm-hmm.
and because of that, it's just harder to detect anything. So if we're not able to detect it until it's more advanced cancer, obviously that puts me at a downfall in treating it, more advanced stage. So, yeah, that was part of my decision to move forward with the mastectomy. Ultimately, the reason I moved forward with my mastectomy is because I had connected with a lot of other women who were also waiting until they were 35, till the guidelines tell you this is when you should have your mastectomy. And they ended up getting breast cancer at age 32 or 33 or hit with it earlier. You just can't tell with this. It's just one of those, you think you're doing everything right. You think you're doing everything by what the guidelines say, but it's just so unpredictable.
It is.
Right. And even with the screening that wasn't being caught, which even though mine was early, it was not seen or detected on mammogram or MRI.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Did you, with yours, did they have to do any treatment, or did they find, what was your pathology results?
25% of my breast had the lobular breast cancer in situ, and I also had hyperplasia. And they do recommend tamoxifen, but it only decreases your risk by 5%. And my doctor was like, you don't need to take it.
Okay.
I should probably get a second opinion. I was happy with her answer.
Yeah. Well, I know a lot of times with the BRCA mutation, they don't, especially BRCA1, if it's which often is triple negative, they don't mess around. They typically go for the most aggressive form of treatment.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Wow.
Well,
So this was 3 years ago that you decided to have the mastectomy, and that was after you were done breastfeeding, and he's a little older. Yeah.
Did you have your surgery in Iowa?
I did. Yeah. I had it in Des Moines, and at the time, I looked around for different surgeons. I had essentially consulted with multiple different surgeons, just trying to find someone that I was most comfortable with. And I had done a lot of research about different kinds of reconstruction and, what more so figured out what questions I needed to ask. Also connected with many different groups, a lot of different Facebook groups that filled with women, tens of thousands of women who, are going through the same thing or have gone through the same thing, that could help, share their stories. And they're fantastic about sharing pictures and just everything that they're going through, the good, the bad.
Yeah.
So that helped a ton. But yeah, it's a hard process to navigate. There's not really a book that says this is the right way that it should be done.
Right.
It really is the right way.
Yeah.
So you opted for Reconstruction, correct? Yeah. Can you tell us about your recovery and how did it go? It looks from our end to be pretty smooth.
And I feel very, very fortunate. I had, pretty much an ideal surgery, an ideal recovery. As far as reconstruction goes, there's many different ways that women choose to be reconstructed. Some don't choose reconstruction at all. There's great flat and fabulous movements on that I love to see. But yeah, I was single at the time and knew that I was wanting to date at some point. And I don't know, I mean, more than for someone else, but I just wanted to feel confident in my own skin. And the best way for me to do that, or for my feeling to do that, was to be reconstructed. And I explored, different types of reconstruction. I was told I wasn't a candidate for deep flap. You guys
Deep flap is where they take the fat from other parts of the body and inject it.
Well,
correct?
yeah, because you're a CrossFitter. You've got this amazing
You're
body.
lean.
So they take, oftentimes they take like the abdominal fat, or I should, not even fat, just skin tissue, really. It doesn't, now in hindsight, I've seen it be performed on thinner women. However, I was told I wasn't a candidate because I didn't have enough of that tissue around to be able to reconstruct. But it's pretty incredible. They're able to, use your own tissue to reconstruct breasts,
Right.
which is fantastic, because I mean, ultimately at the end of the day, I wasn't too keen on implants. I do have implants. And I was kind of the notion that I would try out this method that I felt confident in after figuring out the surgeon that I wanted to go with, and move forward with it, but know that I'm up for changing at any point if needed as well. So just kind of keeping an open mind around it. But yeah, so I consulted with a lot of different surgeons, and everyone had their different preferred methods, I should say. And I think that after talking with a lot of them, I realized it's more so based on their comfort level and what they have had success with and what they're good at, with their patients. And so, essentially I went in with a lot of different questions and a lot of different types of reconstruction in mind. Whether I was going to go over the muscle or under the muscle. And I racked my brain forever with this decision, and had, again, looked at so many pictures of so many women with different variations of reconstruction to try to figure out what I wanted. And obviously everyone's different and everyone's going to look different, in the end.
No, it's like what you said, there's no playbook, because all of our bodies are so different, and like 250 cc's may look so different on Taylor compared to me.
Exactly.
And the high profile and the low and the moderate, you kind of just want your doctor to tell you, but they don't.
Yeah. So I ended up with high profile round implants under the muscle. And I did do delayed reconstruction. So I had expanders for 4 months in between my mastectomy and the expander surgery.
I heard from a lot of people, including Polly, that the expanders was almost the worst part of it. Did you feel that way?
Yes and no. So the expanders. So yes, at first it just takes time for them to like unfold as they're filling. And so, yeah, you feel all like the creases in them and they're not comfortable. I got to a point where they were fine and they were very comfortable. I was able to, roll on my stomach, upside down with them and not have any issues, not have any tenderness. And then I had them. I mean, that was closer to the probably 3-month mark.
Yeah. Were you working out with your expanders?
Yeah.
You were. And under the muscle, I can't imagine how that would feel. Lifting weights. And how long did you wait till you started lifting weights?
Okay, so you mentioned I do CrossFit. And I started doing CrossFit leading up to this surgery. And I didn't know I was starting to do CrossFit. I just knew that I wanted some sort of like boot camp style workout to get me in better shape. I was doing a lot of yoga before that, but I wanted something to really, put me in good shape to affect the outcome, affect my recovery, just have a better chance of having a healthy recovery.
Yeah. Wow. Impressive.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
You're wow. So how long were you doing it before your surgery?
A few months. Let's see, I started in June. My surgery was in August, so 2 months maybe.
Okay.
And I didn't know exactly what I was getting into. I just thought, it was more of like a boot camp thing. They didn't call it CrossFit where I was at. And then realized I was learning more of the CrossFit movements. But afterwards, you have the lifting restrictions for 6 weeks after surgery. So I had them 6 weeks after each surgery. With my expanders in, my surgeon wasn't as concerned about impact. So I was running pretty much right away. I got my drains out. Let's see, 2 weeks? I think it was like 11 days after my mastectomy. And then at the 2-week mark, he was like, you can run if you want to run, just take it easy.
Nice. That makes me feel so happy because that's what I'm worried about is I don't want to take any time off.
Yeah.
Like, 4 to 6 weeks. I'm like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen to me in that amount of time?
I did mostly abide by the lifting restrictions as far as my arms go, especially after the second surgery when I had the exchange surgery, because I had a friend who one of hers ended up bottoming out. She had to go back in for surgery.
Oh, no. From lifting weights?
Yeah, just from doing too much to her.
What do you mean bottoming out? Like it dropped?
Yeah, so it dropped out of place. They had to go back in to do, basically not do the surgery over again, but just fix it. And so then, her
like
lifting.
A sling. One of those slings they put in the cadaver sling.
Yeah, that's.
Oh,
so essentially she just had to, go back in for surgery and then restart her lifting restriction time period, obviously. I was that second time after getting the exchange surgery, after having that. And mostly at that time, I was just lifting legs and doing everything I could. I'd come in, go to class just like everybody else, but I'd modify all the movements to be able to fit what I could do and what I could lift. And I got more into it once I got a little bit stronger, and then thought it was really cool how powerful it made me feel to be able to throw around a heavy barbell. So I just kept going at it, and ended up wanting to put on quite a bit of weight. I shouldn't say wanting to put on quite a bit of weight, but I had an intention of putting on weight to build muscle mass, essentially. So yeah, if you look at pictures of me from like my mastectomy time and now, I've put on probably about 25 pounds of muscle.
Oh my gosh. That's so cool. It's so motivating.
It's cool. Except for I don't fit in my clothes. I've had to rebuy every season, I feel like.
You were like Lulu's all the time, just the stretch pants.
But yeah, so that has been such a key piece to my recovery, and just so instrumental in everything that it's just been so cool. It's just been that thing that I look forward to every day, the constant progression of just getting better and getting stronger. And
right. Wow. Do you do competitions?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm currently pregnant.
Yay! Congratulations.
Thank you, thanks. I haven't really been public, and not that it's a secret. We're like halfway there, but Not a secret, but we're due in August. So
How exciting. Congratulations.
yeah, just not something I've necessarily made a public announcement about yet. So.
Wow. Hey, right here on BG. So how is that going to affect the breastfeeding? Because I know that was important to you. Are you not going to be able to breastfeed?
No, I won't be able to. And that was something I came to terms with, obviously, before having my mastectomy. It took some time to really get myself in a good mental headspace, to know that, I think I kind of had the notion, this is probably a lot of society, and a lot of what women are conditioned to think, but feel like, you can't be the best mom, or you need to be breastfeeding your child in order to do what's best for your child.
Right.
And, really kind of getting over that. And I know at the time I remember thinking, I'm like, I need to be alive, not only alive, but I need to be healthy for the one child that I have, then be concerned with breastfeeding a future child.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
I don't even know if I'm going to have some.
Right. They make fantastic formula now, organic and all that good stuff. And there's so many breast milk donators that you could probably find.
Yes, I've looked into it a little bit, but I haven't. I still have quite a bit of research to do on that front. But yeah, I do know that there's different milk donors, and then I know that a lot of breasties are using certain types of formula as well.
Yeah. And they have this beautiful, strong mom to look up to. I know your little boy, when you post your pictures going into CrossFit, and he's there with you. Yeah, Mom! So cute. So cute.
No, it doesn't get normal.
So do you feel like that, looking back on the whole mastectomy journey, it was easy, was it doable, or was it horrible, painful, miserable, wouldn't recommend it? Or because I'm doing it in September. So what are some things you can tell me that you experienced?
And I don't want to say that, I don't want to make anyone's decision for them. I think that, it's definitely a very personal decision. It's what, someone wants to do or not do for whatever reasons they have. For me, I had zero regrets about it. None. So I had a very good experience overall. And I know during that year, it was all I thought about, all I read about was boobs, and everything in my life surrounded boobs. And now I just don't think about it much at all. It's just, the norm. And so I know that it's overwhelming, and I understand that feeling going into it of just, there's so many unknowns. And that was part of the reason why ultimately I had decided to share my story, is, while I was going through that mastectomy process, is to more so shed light on it and, make other women not feel so alone, and not make them feel as scary as it does sometimes. And so, ultimately, I felt that weighed out more in sharing my story than the people at my job that were maybe going to think less of me for sharing my story.
Right.
So, which didn't happen at all. I've had tremendous support from everybody all along the way. So if someone did have anything negative to say, I didn't hear it. So, I would say, as far as pain management, that was my number one concern.
Mm-hmm.
Or that was, I think, the number one thing. First of all, I just needed to survive surgery.
Yeah.
I don't want to wake up in the middle of surgery.
No, that would be awful.
That, or die on the table. And I know this is, I've just watched some shows, but I know this is fear.
Right. Well, we all go through that thought process.
Right. But no, it was, but then I, definitely wanted to get a handle on pain management. And wasn't going to try to be a superhero in front. I made sure to talk to my doctors about, you know, how we were going to manage the pain going into the surgery and coming right out. So I know that my breast surgeon did put in a nerve block. I think those are pretty common these days. But did put in a nerve block for, I think it was like 24 hours, and they put it in after you're already out. But then they have different things. I wasn't given a wound vac. However, I know that some people do use wound vacs.
A wound vac?
Yeah. I was never offered one. I didn't even see that it was an option until I saw other people going through the process and using one. So I just made sure.
Is that in place of the drains?
Yeah, that's what I was
Because those
wondering.
are sucking, right?
No, I think it just keeps everything tight and like in to better heal. I think it I don't know if it keeps air out or I don't know. Yeah, look into it though. If it's available, use it. I think why not? But yeah, so I was more so concerned with that pain management more so than anything. So I was lucky I had my sister-in-law who is a nurse practitioner. Her and my dad's wife had both, you know, kind of taken turns to make sure that I was waking up at the times that I needed to wake up, if, you know, it was due for my pain medicine. So I think just staying on top of that, or I set an alarm sometimes, you know, okay, I can take pain meds at this time. And I took them at that time, whether or not I really backed them, at least for 2 days, just so that I didn't have to feel, because it does take like 20-30 minutes to get into your system if you get into that panic stage of like, oh my God, this really hurts.
Yeah.
So yeah, as far as pain management goes, I think that was like my biggest concern. And then it's just, you know, taking everything day by day, hour by hour sometimes, you know, and going through the first 2 weeks is really, I feel like the main struggle in a mastectomy is, you know, the first, I mean, from day 1 to day 5, I think I was off my pain medicine by day 5, but by day 5, you know, you're feeling so much better. And then 2 weeks, so much better. You hit these different milestones throughout, and it's just, okay, I feel like a new human.
Yeah. For sure.
That was you too. Yeah.
It just was like one day I was fine. It's weird.
Yeah. Something that I highly recommend is, well, 2 things I highly recommend. Rest. I wish I would have done that more. I didn't, not that I felt like I needed to be up, but I felt good enough to be up and about. And as exercise has been built into, you know, my normal daily, I wanted to, you know, be up and about and get going and at least walk around the block if I could do anything, which I know they definitely recommend. But I also would have rested more and not felt like I needed to be awake and around everybody.
Right. Did you have help with your son during those first 2 weeks?
I did. Yeah. His dad had him most of the time. And he was in and out. As I felt better, I had him a lot more.
Yeah.
He was 4 at that time. And so we practiced a lot of him getting in and out of the bathtub by himself. And
that's a good idea.
Yeah, just like little things leading up to surgery that, okay, you know, you're going to be a big helper. You're going to, you know, press the button that's too high for mommy to reach because I'm not lifting my arms on the garage, you know, to open the garage. And, you know, getting into his car seat by himself. So where I would normally just lift him in or lift him in the bathtub, stuff like that. And just, you know, kind of changing everything around a little bit for him.
That's good. And he
I
did
need to
it.
do
He
that.
probably liked it. He's like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm taking care of my mom.
yeah.
He was a big guy.
Oh, cute.
It worked out really well. And actually, funny enough, he came to visit me at the hospital because he thought, and I was fine to, like, I didn't know the condition that I was going to be in until I was there, and I was like, oh yeah, we're good. So he came to visit me in the hospital, which he loved everything about that. Thought it was the coolest thing. He was eating Jello, like hanging out. But he thought I was getting new arms.
Oh.
So he comes in and he's investigating my arms and looking at them.
Oh.
He's like, they look the same.
Oh.
Thought I was getting new arms, and I'm like, oh, that's really cute.
Oh,
That's
sweet
so
baby.
funny. I keep telling my kids, and they're like, Mom, when are you gonna get your new boobs? Like, not yet.
How old?
When are you gonna get your boobs cut off? They're 3 and 5.
Oh yeah. Okay, so you're about that same age.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah.
Oh.
So I'm gonna take that advice, and I'm gonna train them and
Yeah.
do the garage door and the buckling, yeah, all that stuff.
Yeah.
I do have a couple more questions for you. Which one should I ask for? Okay, how about your pathology? Did you have anything on your pathology?
I didn't, thankfully. Yeah, nothing came back on pathology. So I feel very lucky because I know that a lot of women, I mean, like yourself, do find out that's when they're diagnosed with cancer, is they think they're going in for preventative surgery, and then little do they know they're walking out with a cancer diagnosis, which is
right.
just such a mind flip completely of
Wow.
so you think you're in control and taking control of your life, and you're doing this on your terms, and then all of a sudden you're hit with.
So true. Well, thank goodness yours was clear.
Yeah.
And then did you do nipple sparing?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah. And all of the surgeons that I met with, they all recommended it. Basically I was explained that, I mean, technology has just gotten so great. I mean, the mastectomies that we all knew growing up were like very, very invasive. I mean, this is an invasive surgery, yes, but you were coming out of it with massive scars, and your chest essentially like carved out, and reconstruction just wasn't a thing back then when I knew about mastectomies, at least growing up.
Right.
And yeah, now science has progressed so much that they don't need to make scars very big. They can get in there, they can get all the breast tissue out. And then with nipples, they completely, carve out the nipple.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, I did keep my nipples. However, after seeing some patients who have done nipple tattoos, I would have maybe opted for that route as well. I think they look fantastic and, have the same appearance. And frankly, I don't have functionality in my nipples, so there's nothing.
Yeah.
Purely for decoration at this point.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And then I guess I have 2 more questions. Sorry. Did you have fat grafting?
Oh yes, I did. They didn't have a ton of fat to grab out of they grabbed it from my belly. So essentially they usually grab it from your abdominal region or your thighs, right? Or your inner thighs. I was like, don't take my legs. I was like, don't take my legs. Because at that point I was working to build up a lot of muscle in my legs. Like,
Yeah.
don't touch my legs. They did take out some fat. It wasn't a ton. I don't know that it made a huge difference in the reconstruction, that they then basically used it to fill in, at the top of, just to create more of that natural slope. I am reconstructed under the muscle, so that gives a little more slope as it is. but with round implants instead of, one of the surgeons I'd met with wanted to go with or was pretty adamant he would only use the gummy teardrop implants, which later were recalled. So I'm glad that we didn't move forward with that, or I didn't move forward with that surgeon. But yeah, so essentially just trying to create as natural of a looking breast as possible. So yeah, I did have a little bit, I think it was only like 15 cc's in each breast, if I remember right. I think they took a total of 30.
Well, it's not bad.
Yeah.
And how long after your surgery did you have that done?
So that was during my exchange surgery. So they did it all at once.
Oh, okay.
That's nice.
I didn't know they could do that at the same time.
Yeah, they can. Well, and that's what they ended up doing. I think that's pretty common. But then they also will do, I know that they'll do it later. And like if I wanted to go back in for a revision now, they would do the same thing. But
yeah.
So I guess my final question is, like 3 years out, how do your breasts feel now? Do they feel like they're a part of your body? Because I still experience some pain and they're very foreign. And like when I'm running, it feels weird, like my milk is letting down or something. Do you
interesting.
all those weird symptoms still, or does it seem to be lessening?
Like phantom feeling?
Yeah. Only when I'm running, it's really weird.
No, I mean, I think I've just gotten used to them. One thing I did, I guess this is the other recommendation, going back to what my recommendations were as far as mastectomy goes, is definitely do some sort of PT. It's not something that surgeons automatically will recommend or refer patients onto. However, I was already working with a chiropractor who does like sports therapy more so before that. And I talked to him about it, I'm like, hey, I'm having a mastectomy next week. Surprise. But I would like to, do what I can to increase my mobility, because I have known a lot of women to come out of their mastectomy and their range of motion is very stuck, here, or just can't get all the way above head like they're supposed to be able to. He's like, yeah, let's, bring you in pretty quickly. We'll work with you. And so, and he did. He worked a lot of like the soft tissue, just working things out. We did some dry needling around my armpits, and just more so like got in there and stretched. But then I also got a referral from my plastic surgeon to do physical therapy as well. So the physical therapy and then active release therapy is what my chiropractor.
Oh, that's great advice.
So
that's awesome.
It was fantastic. I highly, highly recommend for everybody. I started about a week after I got my drains out. So probably about week 3. Again, being careful not to, they don't want you to go over your shoulders, that first 6 weeks, they don't want you to move your arms above your shoulders, really. And we were careful about that, but also starting early enough to where we could get a good grasp as things were healing and, start to mend and, loosen up a lot of that. So that's helped a ton, especially in working out as well. So as far as feeling like my breasts are foreign to me, yes, somewhat I do. But at the same time, I don't think about it much. A lot of like static holds, I think. Like if I'm doing strict pull-ups on a bar or like rope climbs, I feel it more then. Mm-hmm. But a lot of times CrossFit's one of those sports where you're going at a fast pace. A lot of times you're doing things for time. And so I don't really have time to stop and think about it.
Right. Wow. Well, that was so informative.
I know. I'm so glad we talked to you.
No,
good kids.
Well,
what was that?
finally meet you guys face to
I
face.
know,
right?
We see your picture all the time.
Yes, you are such a huge part of my whole journey. So I just really appreciate you so much for being so open and you deciding to do that regardless of what your job or family or friends thought of you.
Yeah.
Help me. So thank you.
I love that. I mean, that means a lot to me. I appreciate you sharing that. So that's cool.
And hopefully this video gets out there and you can help many more women come. So yeah.
That's the hope.
Yeah. Well, congratulations
Yes,
on the new
congratulations.
baby.
Thank you.
Yeah, we look forward to seeing their picture, the boy or girl. Do you know what you're having yet?
We don't know. No. So I married into two boys, 13 and 16. So we have three boys at home. Yeah. So we don't know. We're gonna find out. We're gonna be surprised in August. Just that
Oh,
video.
fun! I like the surprise.
Maybe it'll be on your birthday.
Yeah.
What birthday?
August 21st.
24. It could be.
Yeah. Oh,
Well, thank you so
exciting.
much, Emily.
Yeah, thank you, Emily.
I appreciate it.
All right, have a fun day.